welcome to the Exam Room Podcast, brought to you by the Physicians Committee. Hi, I am the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll, and this is the healthiest half hour anywhere online today. Appreciate you joining us right here on Facebook and on YouTube. Now, coming up today, we're going to be talking about battling back from the brink of death. You are about to hear the powerful story of recovery and survival as one woman refused to watch her mother die. How Meg Donahue was able to take her 80-year-old mom from hospice all the way back to health, and how that incredible transformation led to the creation of the nation's largest whole food plant-based meal delivery service. Well, this, my friend, is a story unlike you have ever heard before. Meg Donahue is here with us today, and she's going to wow you momentarily. Meg Donahue, what an incredible story. Can't wait to dive into this one with you. And I'm telling you, we're going to be devoting nearly the entire show to this today. And if you have a question for Meg about this, and I'm sure that you will, go ahead and drop that in the comments section. We're going to be opening up that mailbag in just a little bit. But first, let's get caught up on the latest happenings. Here are your health headlines for Tuesday, October 27th, 2020. The coronavirus continues raging unabated. The rolling daily average for new cases in the country crossing 70,000 for the first time, with more than 74,000 coming yesterday, with the country's total now surpassing 8.7 million. Meanwhile, prison officials in South Dakota say more than half of the state's prisoners have tested positive for COVID-19, and a recent surge in cases in Los Angeles is being blamed on large celebrations following the Lakers capturing the NBA championship a couple weeks back. Meanwhile, in other news, the benefits of vitamin C have long been touted for battling the common cold, but now it appears that the immune-boosting nutrient may also help in the fight against COVID-19. Check this out. Some doctors say they have noticed low levels of the vitamin among critically ill patients with the virus, while a small study in China finds severely infected COVID patients who were given high doses of vitamin C intravenously had greater survival rates. The authors of a new review suggest that previously proven antioxidative and anti-inflammatory properties of vitamin C may play a role in COVID-19 recovery. The review is published in the journal Nutrients. And finally today, it appears that having high levels of omega-3 fatty acids can improve the long-term prognosis for heart attack survivors. A new study of nearly 1,000 cardiac patients finds that those who had the highest levels of omega-3s in their blood at the time of the heart attack had fewer complications during recovery. The healthy fats can strengthen the heart's membranes, which aid in the patient's outlook, according to doctors. The findings published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology also reveal the benefits extend to plant sources of omega-3, such as flaxseed, walnuts, and soy products. And you can find a bunch of other resources on plant-based omega-3s on our website, pcrm.org. And I also did an episode recently of the Exam Room Live with Dr. Jim Loomis, where we covered plant-based omega-3s from soup to nuts. So go ahead and check that out on Facebook and on YouTube and raise your nutrition IQ. All right, let's move on now to a miraculous journey back from the brink. When Meg Donahue took her mom home from hospice care, the heart of the very woman who gave her life was struggling with every beat. Her arteries were severely clogged, and at 80 years old, the prognosis was grim. But Meg was unwilling to say goodbye. And instead of researching funeral homes, she began to research surviving heart failure. And that is when she discovered plant-based diets. The discovery not only saved her mother's life, one of the most extraordinary turnarounds ever documented on the show, but it also changed Meg's life as well. As today, she is the founder, proprietor of MamaSezz, the leading whole food plant-based meal delivery company in the United States. Changes abound, so let's talk about them right now with Meg Donahue. Meg, thank you so very much for joining us here on the show today.
Thank you, Chuck. I'm delighted to be here. I love the show and I love the work you're doing.
I love the work that you're doing, and I love your story so much. I was reading up on this, and it begins with really a shock in that you tell your mom at 48 years old that you are pregnant, and then shortly thereafter, unfortunately, your mom got sick. The two not correlated or related at all here, but let's talk about the health challenge that was facing your mom. What did doctors diagnose her with?
She had congestive heart failure and her kidneys were failing, and she had less than 10% heart function. And she had had a pacemaker. She had had, I think, a year prior. And she was just, progressively getting weaker and weaker. And what we found is she was, in and out of the emergency room. And there were a lot of times where, we just thought this was it, that she was done. And so that was her official diagnosis, was severe congestive heart failure with kidney failure. And then, all of the whole ecosystem, especially as you get older, when one big piece of it fails, the rest gets impacted. And so there were a lot of other smaller, by comparison, issues that she had as well. But those were the two big ones.
And at 80 years old, she's going to be at high risk for surgery, but then just 10% a heart function at that point, plus the kidney failure. She definitely was not a good candidate for surgery at that point, correct?
That's exactly right. She just wouldn't have survived it. I mean, she was having trouble without surgery, just, going from day to day. And that was the prognosis, that there is nothing really we can do medically beyond the drugs that she was on. And surgery was out of the question.
But here's the thing about mothers and the power that they contain. It is a special power, the likes of which, if you're not a mother, you will never understand it. So, gentlemen, don't even try. You, at this point, are pretty far along in your pregnancy, but then you wake up, I believe, with a swollen face, severely swollen legs. You wind up in the hospital, and your mom, who is severely ill at this point, actually is able to make that journey 2 states, I believe, to come see you in the hospital room.
Yeah, and it is that mother bear energy. And, I think most people have heard of it, and many people have experienced it, either the benefit of it or in themselves. And she just was able to, I think she understood that somebody in this equation, me, because I was very sick, my baby, or her, somebody in this equation was not going to make it. And so she was very, very clear on getting to the hospital. She lived in Maine at the time, and I was in Vermont, and she had my sister drive her, and they wheeled her into my hospital room at the time. And Chuck, it was one of those moments where, she was in a wheelchair, just as dragged out as you can imagine an 80-year-old looking one day prior. And that moment, she had dressed herself up. She had, had her face made up, and she got out of her chair and walked to my bed. And it was like my mother of the 60s, because the other piece of the story is she was not an unhealthy woman. Her whole life, she was the one who played tennis, who played golf. She looked great, did yoga, but she ate a very typical American diet. But at that moment, she looked like herself of the 60s, and she grabbed my hand and she said, "You're going to be okay, and your baby's going to be okay." And then she collapsed and back into her chair, and they wheeled her off. And sure enough, less than maybe an hour later, I had my own baby, who was 3 months premature. And so there we all were in the hospital, all of us in intensive care very soon within the next week.
Yeah, Meg, I mean, that is just that is a lifetime of emotions just in the span of 1 hour here. I mean, let's talk about this juxtaposition of everything that's going on. You're in ICU yourself because of the preeclampsia. The baby is premature. I believe was born at 1 pound, 10 ounces, if I'm not correct. And your mom has just been wheeled away after collapsing, having traveled 2 states to visit with you. What is running through your mind at this point? What are you feeling?
It's a very interesting, that's a great question, because less than you would imagine. And maybe it speaks to that mama energy. At that moment, my focus was, I was so glad that my child, my little daughter, was fine, that she was alive. And so that was, and whatever after that point, I was grateful for. So that was what was on my mind, is to make sure she had what she needed. And so in my case, that meant, keeping myself healthy enough that I could breastfeed her, and getting enough rest if I could to be with her, as much as I can, to do a thing called the kangaroo care, where you hold the baby actually on your chest. And especially preemies, it's something that helps them regulate their breathing. So I spent, the next 3 months doing that. And concurrently, my mom was in the hospital most of that time. We were up at Dartmouth Hitchcock. So we were all in and out of the hospital, except for my daughter, who was in the hospital for the next 3 months. And it was it was a very singular focus. It was a very, for me, very kind of that quiet focus you get when you don't have room for error. And that was really, gratefully the state that I was in for most of the time that I was there.
So as the months drag on, it sounds like your daughter is doing well. She's improving. What is your mom's health doing at this point? Is she stabilizing? Is she deteriorating? What's happening here as you have this laser focus?
Yes, she's deteriorating. And so that was a very strange juxtaposition to have both ends of my life. It was pretty much the circle of life. One is growing and one is dying. And so, I was on one hand grateful I had the time because I was with her for the time that she was in the hospital, but it was very, very difficult. And so at that point we knew, by the time I got home, I was able to come home with my daughter, Annie. My mom, they just said, there is nothing more we can do for her. And she, take her home, get her affairs in order, which we had done that part, get hospice together. And that was going to be that. And it wasn't, I just thought, I can't do that. I'm going to bring her home with me. And so while we were up there, we had a friend of mine renovated a little apartment in our garage. It's like a little cottage apartment. And I said, we'll just bring her home. So if it's 3 months, it's 3 months. And at least she'll see her granddaughter and she'll be with me.
But quite literally, you thought at that time you were bringing your mom home to die. Again, I can't imagine how difficult that would have been, even with that laser focus and that quiet calm, as you kind of described it, having this new child, welcoming this new life into the world, but then knowing that the woman who gave you life is spending her final days with you as well. I can't even begin to put myself in your shoes.
It was a very intense time, but you hear people a lot when they go through extraordinary experiences. And this is something that I draw on in the work that we do and in helping other people is we're stronger than we know, and we can do, as Glennon Doyle says, we can do really hard things. And when you have that kind of internal belief, and I'm fortunate too, I had support around me in my family. I have a wonderful partner. And so I had that support. And just taking it a day at a time. And that's really was the approach. There was nothing special inside of me other than, that power I think is in everyone. And I just latched onto it and believed it.
I want to paint a clear picture here of the day that you were able to bring your mom home from hospice and get her situated in this apartment that you had just renovated. Was she completely bedridden at this point?
Yes. So she, she could, with assistance, get from place to place. So, and then we had a walker, and then, we had retrofitted made a bathroom pretty much so you couldn't fall in it. So she could get to that, and we had a little bathroom near her bed as well. But she was bedridden. She couldn't feed herself. She was incredibly weak. And she would have some better days, but the bulk of it, she was incredibly weak. And I didn't question that she was dying. I just thought, well, this is what is happening. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, I'm curious and tenacious in some ways. And I thought, well, hasn't somebody survived this? Maybe, and I believe in that kind of Hail Mary pass sometimes coming to fruition. And so I researched who has survived this level of heart disease. Has anybody? And, this was basically a Google search, and I came across Caldwell Esselstyn and T. Colin Campbell and all of these people who they weren't talking about maintaining your heart disease and living at that level of life, but especially Dr. Esselstyn said, we can reverse heart disease. And I thought, oh my goodness, maybe we can reverse this 10 points. Maybe we can get a little bit more time. And that was really my goal. Never in my wildest dreams did I think, that today my mom, who's going to be 90 in a week, would be here. That wasn't even, I was thinking we'll get another 6 months. We'll get some more time. And that's when I came across a whole food plant-based diet, and which was new to me. We'd worked in the organic world because we had a large commercial bakery. We had national brands in our company, but I did not understand what a whole food plant-based diet was. So I was just a flat out newbie. So I totally understand people who are just starting it and ask questions like, where do you get your protein? And eat eggs. And because that's all that I asked. I was terrified, but I started feeding her. I read the books and used their recipes, and I did exactly what they said to do. And I made tiny meals for her because that's all she could eat, and fed them to her. And I just want to reiterate, it wasn't like one day she was dying and the next day, she's doing jumping jacks. It was kind of a slow process, and almost that I didn't quite realize what was happening until we were about 6 months in, and everything, she started walking around her apartment, and she started being able to go out into the driveway and walk, and the color came back to her face, and she could hold my daughter. They have a tremendous relationship to this day because my mom still lives with me, and they grew up together, my mom's new life and my daughter's first life.
Yeah. So at what point, I mean, as you're witnessing this transition and your mom's resurgence here, at what point were you able to kind of take a break from that laser focus, that quiet calm that you had, and really just kind of observe and take in everything that was actually happening here as your mom is able to just walk up and down the driveway, which is miraculous unto itself? At what point were you able to just take a step back and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I'm seeing here?
Yeah, I think the moment that happened, we were still work very closely with her doctors. And I always recommend, do everything. If you're on a lot of medications or if you have serious conditions, always work with your doctor. I mean, they're brilliant people. And a diet change plus medicine is a very powerful equation. And so we worked with our doctors, and we were at Dartmouth and she had a cardiology appointment. And I got her into the appointment, and I was waiting in the waiting room, and like an hour went by, and I was like, oh man, something's bad's happening. And so I went into the little lobby area, and maybe 3 minutes later, my mom came out, and it was like she was jogging and she was so thrilled. And she had this piece of paper in her hand, and I still have it because it was amazing, because we'd been tracking her level of ejection fraction from below 10, and she was up at like 54%. And they said, you are doing amazing. And her cardiologist, the reason it took so long is her cardiologists were in there, and the nurses are like, what are you doing? You were at the end, and now your heart function, and this is important. And maybe that's why I saved this little took a picture of that note where the nurse circled it and said, you're doing great, because it's measurable. It wasn't like she just emotionally felt better, which is a part of it, but she actually physically was measurably getting better, so that her strength came back, so that her lungs were working better, that her heart's working better, her brain's working better. Everything started to regenerate in a way that was wholly unanticipated in my life. And I think that's when it struck me that this is something very significant going on. This is not mom's doing better than we thought. Something very big is happening. And all the while I'd been doing research around a whole food plant-based diet, and had been confused, like, why didn't I know this? How come, my dad died of Alzheimer's, and I think we may have been able to mitigate some of that. And I know we could have certainly intercepted some of my mom's progression of her heart disease. And so I was part frustrated, but mostly incredibly thrilled by the opportunity. I felt like I'd found the golden ticket for people and myself, because my own health started getting better. It wasn't bad, but I had early arthritis because I was an athlete most of my life, and I had, the aches and pains that athletes get, and those went away. Beginning of macular degeneration, and that went away. And so I knew something big was happening, and that was the moment where it really coalesced, and I said, this is something I had entirely not expected to happen, and it is kind of miraculous.
I'm curious what the doctors and nurses, what their reaction was when your mom said, "Well, hey, I'm eating this whole food plant-based diet." That's, as we've learned here on the show time and again, nutrition is not something that's taught in medical school. So when the patient is showing such dramatic improvement, and then they come out of what probably seems like left field to these medical professionals and says it's the food, they got to be like, "What is she talking about right now?"
That is very true. And I think that's probably a little bit kinder than how it was actually expressed, because there is, and I rightfully so, because I have a lot of compassion for doctors, because they are, their decision, they are responsible for. And I get that. And so it's very difficult to say to somebody, just change your diet and I won't give you these medicines, when compliance might be an issue, and then you're on the hook for that decision and it not going well. And these doctors initially were like, well, that's nice. That's nice, but keep doing all this. And so it was over time. And I would say it took a good 3 years before. And there's still one doctor, and this is, my mom tells this story early on that she had, and it wasn't at Dartmouth, it was at another hospital in Maine. And he had said to her when she was in the hospital for a heart issue, and he said, well, and she felt horrible, gray-faced, no energy, and this was a previously vibrant woman. And he said, well, this is as good as you're going to feel. And, for somebody who loves life, and to tell them this, as good as you're going to feel, is just dreadful. It could either knock him out, or I think with my mom, it was a little kernel of, I'll show you. We'll see. And she never expressed it until she was way on the other end, and she told me this story. And she's wanted to call him and things, and she's tempered it a little, but it was so powerful. And I think when I talk with doctors, it's to never take away somebody's hope. Always be realistic, but to not take away their hope, because we never know. You never know.
Before we talk about everything that this journey led into for you professionally, I got to ask, the months roll on, your mom continues to progress. I believe I read on your website that she's even up. She's driving again. She's out there. She's living life.
Yeah, she's doing great. She's, she started driving again after about a year. And then she started swimming again. She loves to swim. So and pre-COVID, she was swimming 3 to 4 times a week. She still meets with her friends. It took her about 6 months into the COVID to say, how can I do it in a socially distanced way? So, and it's very sweet, 85 and up pack of friends meet in a park and socially distanced walk together. But she's very active. She's with my kids every day. She's doing tremendous. She's got an Instagram account. She's much more social than me. So she's doing great.
Oh, I love that she's on Instagram. That is the best. But okay, as we know here, let's talk about you for a little bit. These whole food plant-based meals, they do take a lot of time. They take effort. They take energy to put together. And that in itself can be stressful. And you kind of realized that, and that became the genesis for the company that you founded, MamaSezz. Talk to us a little bit about that.
It is really true. We, so in it, and as many people that may have experienced, or even if you don't have to have a dramatic health thing, but you just want to eat better for you or your family, there's an amount of energy that's you don't always have. And I knew for myself, my own experience was I was, cooking for, at the time, there were 3 generations at my house, and I felt better. Everyone was feeling better, but I was really drained from the effort. And I thought, well, there's got to be a better way. And I looked for other companies that were doing this, and a lot of companies are out there doing some things in this space. They're either giving you recipes and food so you make your own, or they're doing frozen food or a prepackaged meal. And what I realized we wanted is I wanted to be able to have something that was incredibly flexible and was a staple that I could just have in my fridge. Like, you switch from regular milk to almond milk. And I wanted those items already made in my fridge that were whole food plant-based. And so that I could add whatever I wanted to, but I just wanted to have the cleanest food possible as a base or just to eat. And so that's how we started. It was basically to heal that stress in my own life and in my friend's life, is to make products. And that's what we do. We're a food manufacturing company. We make delicious whole food products like lasagna and marinara sauce and Hungarian soup and rice pudding. And we have a huge variety. And then out of every package, and because this is what I wanted, I didn't want to eat the same thing every day. Every package you can make, there's endless possibilities that you can make with it. And so you get to be creative, or you get to have it be dinner's ready in 5 minutes. And I thought that's the solution I wanted. So we went about, couldn't find it. And so we said, let's get back into the food business. And we know how to make food and source it and distribute it. And so we spent a lot of time nailing the recipes and figuring out what would be really helpful for them. And I think we've hit our stride.
And the name MamaSezz, is that kind of your way of having your own mom endorse this product? Like, Mama says this is good for you.
A little bit. And you know what? The other thing was, I just wanted to uncomplicate eating well. Do like your mama says. Eat your fruits and veggies. Go outside and play. You don't need a nutrition degree to eat dinner or to feed your family. There's some really basic things. And so that's what I wanted. If you can just kind of follow those things, and you've done so many amazing interviews and talk with people where we know if you can have these kind of components in your life where you've got 80% of the time really great food, and you have a good sleep pattern, and you have a way to connect with friends and family that feels good and de-stresses you, and some playtime, then your life has the possibility to be really full and enriching. And it's when those things get out of balance that, at least for me, I get out of balance, and things kind of tend to slide, and we can fall into to stress and kind of dissolve into that. So we just wanted to be this. We're non-shaming. I don't care what you eat, what diet you're on. If you eat some of our products, you're going to get 3 to 4 servings of veggies in everything that you do. So add it to your plate and make your life a lot easier.
And you have bundles available for just about everything under the sun. I've got it pulled up just over here to the side. Weight loss, peak performance, I assume, is for athletes. You've got the chef's choice, the people who are just getting going, the people who are worried about their complexion. So you've got the beauty bundle. You've got a little bit of everything there available for people. We
really wanted to make it easy, and people are stressed, and eating well, it's not structurally hard. It's just difficult to do it consistently for some people. And so we wanted to be that added thing that you get a bundle once a month, and you have all your staples. So if you want to make a soup, you can. If you want to do, a bigger meal, you can, with using our staples. But the other thing that you're talking about is that there are people who have really specific needs. And we said, let's curate bundles for them that they can just buy, and we'll do a menu for them that they can use or not, that make it really easy. And a good example is we work with the folks, Robbie and Cyrus at Mastering Diabetes, and we created a bundle that follows their program. So people can just, especially if they're just getting started, but also if they're just busy, they won't have to think. We've done the fat counts. We did all the nutritionals with them and really mirrored what they need, and then created a menu. So it's plug and play. And so at any meal, you can have exactly what you need. And it's like home cooking. It's good food. There's nothing against frozen food, but I know for me, it's not what I want to eat on a regular basis. And so we wanted to make food that people could eat on a regular basis. That they just fold it into their life. And so that's what these specialty bundles do. And they help people do what they want to do, which is eat well and go have a vibrant life.
Yeah, you can check that out at MamaSezz.com. That's Sezz, SEZZ.com. So a very important distinction. See that web address right there on the screen. Go there, check out the bundles. And Meg, I wish that we had more time, but I do want to make 2 points that kept coming in time and time again from the chat room with the exam roomies here today. One, everyone thinks that your mom is just an incredible rock star, such an inspiration. And two, they want to know what her Instagram handle is. They want to give her a follow.
I was just thinking that because she just had a post in another group. It went viral because she's out there. She's and it's at the time she's very vocal about, what she thinks about things. Politically, she's very engaged, and she did a Get Out the Vote campaign, bombing around in a little convertible that we have. So she was having fun. But her Instagram account is Millicent.Donahue. Instagram. That's her. So it's Millicent. Her nickname is Millie, and it's Millicent.Donahue. And yeah, go check out. She's doing great, and she I can't believe my 90-year-old mother's on Facebook and Instagram more than me, but she is very engaged. She's in her element for sure.
She's the coolest. She is really making the most of her second shot here. I mean, just what an incredible story, and obviously at MamaSezz on Instagram as well. So, Meg Donahue, thank you so very much for everything. And oh, by the way, my goodness gracious, while I've got you here, thank you so very much to you and MamaSezz for supporting our Let's Beat Breast Cancer campaign this year as well. We could not be doing this without your support. So, thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. We just think it's a real opportunity, and any place that we can help and that we know really does help. And PCRM has done incredible work and continues to. We love supporting the initiatives, and breast cancer is close to our heart, with good friends who have suffered and many recovered, and anything that we can do to help, we want to do.
All right, Meg,
I'm just going to quickly say we partnered with the American Institute for Cancer Research too, specifically with a bundle for them, for people who are going through chemotherapy or who are on the other end, and just want that part of their life to be easy. So.
All right. Well, here's what I want to do. I want to extend an invitation for you to come back on the show, whether it's the live show or on the podcast, where we would have a little bit more time. I want to hear a little bit more about these bundles, but then I also want to hear about some of the customers whom you've heard from, because we've heard your story as a shining example. We've heard your mom's story as this phenomenal example, but now you're serving this food, and teaching so many people about the power of a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet, that I'm sure that you've heard of other people who are having their own incredible health transformations as well. So I would love the opportunity to dive into some of those with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, is so gratifying. I get emails daily of people who have had from large to small impact from eating a whole food plant-based diet, and they're emailing me obviously because they've eaten our food and it has really taken them from a place where they were not healthy to a place where they're really thriving. And, there are so many examples. Early on when we first started, I had a gentleman who worked with us, and he was a big guy. He had worked with me for years, and I asked him to work in our facility, and he had no idea about plant-based eating. And I'll just call him Jim. He had no idea about plant-based eating. And he said, okay, I'll do it. And in the first 30 days, and he just jumped right in, he lost 30 pounds, which is way more than we would suggest, but that's what he lost. But a bigger thing happened. He had lifelong kind of debilitating epilepsy, and he had seizures that would just knock him out for 2 and 3 days. And he said to me, like 2 months in, he said, Meg, I think I can come off some of my medication. I said, just check with your doctor. And he did, and he kind of weaned himself off. And within a year, he was off his medication. And, it's that kind of thing. When I talk to people about it, I feel like I'm making it up, or like it can't be true. But the power of it is so miraculous. And we call it, the miracle is going from food that hurt you to foods that help heal you. And that's really what food does. It acts as, it gives you a chance for your body, which is just imbued with a phenomenal power to heal and thrive, to unleash that. And that's what we've seen. And so this happened to him. We've had, so many people, skin conditions. Oh boy, another Andy, another gentleman who worked with us or ordered from us. And he had psoriasis that was so bad. I wish I had the images so I could show people. It's covered his stomach and back and especially around his waist, and was taking steroids, injections himself daily. And he did this, and this was like over a 4 or 5 month period. And he showed me the after picture, and it almost made me cry. And for him, to be able to go out and not have that shame and fear and hiding, and then also all of the medication. He just said it was miraculous. And we've seen that, of course. Your skin's your largest organ. Of course, when you're flooding your body with nutrients that help it heal, that part is going to get impacted. Acne, the same thing. We've had a young woman just recently, we talked about her story where her acne started to heal, and the before and after, it's just so dramatic. It's incredible. And heart disease, diabetes, all of these big issues that have become normalized. And you see this, that it's not normal that so many people have type 2 and diabetes and heart disease and hypertension and depression. Something is off. Mm-hmm. And so of all the factors, one of the ones that we absolutely can impact and control is what we put in our bodies. And we've seen that people come off their especially type 2 diabetes, come off their medication, wean off their medication, begin to lose weight, and have the life, that when you're 10, 12, 13, and you look ahead of your life, there's just so much hope and there's so much excitement for many, many people. And we don't envision ourselves kind of sick and trending down after 35 or 40. And to be able to say, no, that you're right, you shouldn't be trending down. There is a way to bring yourself back and live the life that, you're meant to live and you want to live.
There you go. All right, Meg, we have so much more still to talk about. So let's leave it here for today, and then we will come back and do this again soon. And I just wanted to let you know that it is confirmed. Mary Jo, who has now given your mom a follow on Instagram, she has confirmed that your mom is, in fact, the cutest. So there you go. All right, Meg, thank you so very much. Everybody go visit MamaSezz. Meg Donahue, thank you so much for sharing this story with us. Just truly incredible.
Thank you so much. It was just a pleasure to be here. I absolutely enjoy it and love the work you're doing.
Outstanding. All right. That is just about all the time that we have for the show today. I want to encourage you first also to please head over to Apple Podcast or Spotify. Look for the Exam Room Podcast by the Physicians Committee, our sister show. New episode out this morning. It is Diet Myths Part 4 with Dr. Barnard, revisiting some of the conversation that we had last week here on the live show, where we look at the popular diet myths, talking about raw food versus cooked food when it comes to inflammation and the health benefits of soaking nuts overnight. Is there anything to that notion? Well, he gets into that, and we also talk about so many other great things, foods for sinuses as we head into the fall and winter months. Go ahead and check that out at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher, and please hit that subscribe button. And if you would be so kind as to leave a 5-star rating, we would all greatly appreciate it. I want to say thank you once again to Meg Donahue for spending a little bit of time with us here today and sharing this incredible story. Jeez Louise, what a story. And I also want to say thank you so very much to my team behind the scenes who has helped to put the show on, as always. Thank you. And to you, my exam roomie, who's watching this right now at home, thank you very much for tuning in as well. On behalf of everyone here at the Physicians Committee, I am the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll. We'll talk to you again tomorrow when Dr. Neil Barnard joins me. But until then, stay safe, take a stand, and keep it plant-based.